What would you do if your spouse told you that their child will always be first? But first, am I the a-hole? I told my sister-in-law she should have kept her legs closed if she didn't want needy kids. My older brother has a lot of stepkids. His wife, Tori, has 2 kids from her first marriage, then a son, Liam, 15, from a random hookup, and 1 more kid from a long-term relationship. My brother has a daughter as well. From what he tells me, Liam is the only one without an active father and the only one that lives with them full-time, as my biological niece primarily lives with her mom. I assumed Liam living with them full-time meant he would get quite a bit of attention, but my niece told me that they all seem to forget about him. She has told me that her stepmom once said that Liam is the extra and not as cute as her other kids. Apparently it was a joke. Anyways, Tori invited the whole family over for dinner. At one point, they told us to all gather around, and Tori told us that she's pregnant. Everyone started cheering. I'll admit I was too, but my niece drew my attention to Liam, who started crying and walked off. Niece and I followed him, and when I asked him if everything was okay, he started crying in my arms. I felt so terrible. My niece then took him out for ice cream to cheer him up while I went back to the others. They were all preoccupied, and my brother started talking to one of our nephews, not Tori's kids. This nephew then tells us that while he did not make a team, Liam did. My brother was quite surprised because he's a huge fan of this sport and had no clue Liam was interested, as he always thought he was a quieter, nerdy kid. This nephew sort of laughed and said Liam is not a quiet, nerdy kid. The opposite, actually. He's very popular at school. After finishing this conversation with the nephew, he approached me and said maybe nephew's confused. Liam's not the type of kid. I asked him what kind of kid he thinks Liam is. My brother said that he doesn't talk to Liam much, but according to Tori, he's socially awkward, sensitive, and a little needy. Tori overheard and was like, Liam, is he bothering you? Next time he tries to talk to you, run, or else he'll never leave you alone. He really is needy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, especially after how much Liam cried earlier. I told Tori and my brother that they should be ashamed of themselves. I then specifically told Tori that she should have kept her legs closed if she didn't want needy children. Obviously, my brother kicked me out, which I deserved, but Tori is furious and keeps sending me messages about how rude I am and how I don't know anything about her, etc. I even got yelled at by my mom. I sincerely believe they're all effed in the head. Am I wrong? Edit. Tori has 4 kids. 2 eldest have the same dad, who is very involved. Liam's dad is a deadbeat, and the 4th child has a different dad, but also very involved. My niece, my brother's kid, and the new baby, my brother and Tori's kid, make the total number of kids 6. I just realized how terrible the formatting is. I apologize and hope this clears it up. Edit. I am not giving my brother a free pass. I believe he's a effing idiot, and the fact that he doesn't know anything about his stepson is terrible. Yes, I yelled at Tori mostly because she's the one who kept calling her own son needy. She's the one who told me to run away from him if he talks to me. That's why I yelled at her specifically. Not the a-hole. It sounds like Tori is punishing her own son because she doesn't like that he wasn't conceived in a more stable relationship. She quite literally meant it when she called him the extra. If possible, stay in contact with Liam. He needs an adult who actually cares about him. And yeah, I actually agree with that, because calling your own child needy for wanting attention from its own parent is a little bit psychotic, if I'm not gonna lie. Am I wrong for telling my wife that my son will always come before her? My 32 male wife, 30 female, is concerned over our financial situation. I think her concern is misplaced, but I told her my income isn't going to change anytime soon, so I asked her what we wanted to do about it. She suggested that my son, she is his stepmother, turns 18, we should start charging him rent. I immediately shut the idea down and told her we would have to think of something else, because there's no way I'm charging my son to live in our house. She said it was reasonable since I was paying most of his college tuition, but I told her there are alternatives. I suggested we stop eating out so much because it's $50 to $100 per meal, but she didn't like the idea. I suggested other things which she rejected, so I told her I'm open to suggestions, but my son isn't going to be our source of income. She told me I should think more of her than my son. That made me a little mad, so I told her my son will always come before her. She called me an a-hole after that and hasn't talked to me since. Did I overstep? Am I wrong for going on vacation when my in-laws visit? My husband and I have been married for 23 years. I've always had a kind of iffy relationship with my sister-in-law because she's made it known for years that she wishes my husband married his college girlfriend and not me. Over the years, we got into the point where I wouldn't call us super close, but we were friendly enough to text and would hang out solo when one of us visited the other. Last year, my father-in-law got very sick and needed specialized care. My husband wanted him to live with us during his treatment and during recovery, and I agreed. Sister-in-law made it clear she did not want him at her house. I was able to go part-time at work during this time, and so by nature I became the primary caregiver. It wasn't fun, but I did care for my father-in-law and was happy that he and my husband had time together. On the other hand, my in-laws, especially my sister-in-law, became a problem. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law were very much in denial when it came to his health. When my father-in-law had appointments, I would keep everyone informed, mostly via a text chain because it was easier, and mostly stayed out of decision making because he's not my father and I wanted to respect that. Sister-in-law, brother-in-law started treating me like hired help. Example, when father-in-law needed to go to a skilled rehab facility after a stay in the hospital, I ran around touring facilities and spent hours on the phone. And when I let everyone know my findings, my sister-in-law would say, "We'll discuss as a family and get back to you." Excuse me? I guess I'm not family. Instances like this happened more and more, and neither brother-in-law or sister-in-law made any effort to come see their dying father. When I would occasionally express my feelings, the sister-in-law said, "This doesn't concern you. Go get your nails done or something." Eventually, my father-in-law passed away and I cut all contact with my in-laws. There was no blowout. I just stopped responding to the group chat and stopped actively trying to be in their lives, and made my husband start shopping for birthday gifts, etc. for them, and told him to leave my name off the cards. My husband wasn't thrilled about the rift, but understood where I was coming from, and I told him many, many times that he can have whatever relationship he wants with them, just leave me out of it. A few weeks ago, my sister-in-law sent me a text apologizing for everything because she was in denial about my father-in-law and she hopes I'm doing fabulous. I sent her a text back acknowledging her apology and thanking her for the time and effort she put into reflecting on the situation but didn't initiate further conversation. My sister-in-law now wants to come visit and stay with us for a few days. I told my husband she's welcome to stay, but I will be going to see my best friend during that time. My husband was taken aback, said he understands, but it really upsets him that I want nothing to do with her, and it's not realistic for me to avoid her forever. I really do not want anything to do with people who don't consider me family. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She's not family. When she visits, please go visit people who like and respect you. Also, I think her apology is fake. She's apologizing because she wants a free place to stay when she visits. And OP replied, "Oh, totally. I saw right through it." Not the a-hole. A quick apology from sister-in-law doesn't erase the years of horrid treatment from her and your husband allowing it to happen. Tell your husband that it's not realistic of him to expect you to want to be around sister-in-law when your husband allowed her to treat you worse than hired help. You were unpaid and appreciated help and treated like trash, and he let it happen. Am I wrong for getting upset about my fiance's work partner being my sister? I, female 24, think this is weird, but both my sister, female 26, and my fiance, male 27, are saying it's not and I want a third party. Basically, my fiance works out every weekday after work from like 6:30, 7:30ish, and I always knew he had a workout partner. I just assumed it was one of his friends. Then on Friday, we were just chatting while I started on dinner and he got ready to go. And I mentioned that I had a book I wanted my sister to read because I know she likes reading. And my fiance was like, "Give it to me, I'll give it to her." I was obviously like, "What?" And he got kind of uncomfortable. Like he started saying he should probably go and all. But I asked him why he said that and he said that it wasn't a big deal. But my sister is his workout partner. I said I thought that was weird, especially since he never told me about this. He said they just happened to go to the same gym and it became a thing. He said I'm overreacting. Am I? I don't think I am. It's weird. I mean, if I was working out with his brother, he'd think it was weird. I don't want to be like annoying, jealous girlfriend, but it rubs me the wrong way. I can see why my sister never told me since I don't see her much. Plus, she literally never tells anyone anything. But my fiance, I live with him. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Fiance and sister being workout partner isn't necessarily weird, but the fact that neither party mentioned it to you demonstrates a concerning lack of communication. That combined with uncomfortableness that your fiance showed when you brought up the book makes me think that even if nothing overly shady is going on, that fiance may have some feelings that he's uncomfortable sharing with you. Definitely a red flag. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my girlfriend and her son after she invited her ex into our home? Me, 35 male, and my girlfriend, Sarah, 35 female, have been together for 4 years. She has a son, Nathan, 9 male, with her ex, Mark, 36 male. Sarah has full custody of Nathan, with her ex having scheduled visitations 1 weekend of every month. Sarah and Nathan moved in with me a little over a year and a half ago, and in my perspective, it was a little rocky at first. I've always been pretty protective of my space, so making room for 2 other people was difficult for me. When Sarah moved in with me, we agreed that visitations for Mark would be held in our apartment as long as I'm home. The main reason I wanted this is because I don't know Mark that well, and I don't want him wandering around our apartment without me there. When we proposed this idea to Mark, he was fine with it. Now, moving on to the real issue. 3 weeks ago marks 4 months since Mark's last visit, so I had asked Sarah when he was planning on visiting Nathan. My girlfriend replied by shrugging her shoulders and telling me she'd asked. She never followed up with it. So a few days ago, I asked when Mark's next visit was, and Sarah said she'd tell me when she knew. Nathan was in the living room, but had apparently overheard us and shouted something along the lines of, "Dad was here last weekend, remember?" Sarah's face immediately dropped, and when I asked what Nathan meant, she wouldn't give me a direct answer. Eventually, she ended up telling me that for the past 2 visits, Mark had been to our apartment when I was working. When I accused her of going back on our argument, she kept telling me this was her home too, and she could invite whoever she wanted, and that it was fine because she was here and watching. I told her that was besides the point, and she violated my trust. It blew up into a huge argument, which ended me telling her to get out of my apartment. She packed up and left with Nathan. Last I heard, she was staying with her parents. I've gotten several messages from both Sarah and her parents calling me an a-hole for kicking Sarah and Nathan out of their home for something so small. She's even been blasting me on Instagram and Facebook about how horrible I am to do this to her. It's got me thinking I might be the a-hole, but I'm not entirely sure. Am I the a-hole? You are not the a-hole for being upset, but you are certainly the a-hole for even implanting this rule for as long as you have for 2 people you're supposed to love. They're not roommates. This is your romantic partner and her child. The way you talk about their home like it's only yours is wild, and you're definitely the a-hole for kicking her out with a child. Am I wrong for refusing to sign a lease weeks before leaving my pregnant sister homeless? I, 23, have an Irish twin, 24 female. We've been living together for 2 years. She's a single mom of a toddler. When we first moved in together, the apartment was only in her name, and she let me live with her. I was finishing dental assistant school and couldn't qualify for an apartment on my own. I still paid half the rent and utilities. After graduating and getting a job, I became an official added roommate to the lease last year. I make a lot of money for my age, so when my sister was struggling to pay her half of the rent, when her job cut her hours significantly, it was a no-brainer to start paying more. I could easily afford all the rent, so covering another 25% is nothing. Plus, I love her and my niece. My sister has no help whatsoever from the father, so I help her as much as I can. He works under the table, so he doesn't get his wages garnished for child support. I have watched her struggle to afford daycare and food for her baby, so I also help her with that. 2 days ago, my sister sits me down and tells me she has news. She's pregnant. My jaw dropped. I asked who the dad is, and she starts crying. I didn't expect her to say her deadbeat baby daddy. I was shocked, and she continued on her explanation. She saw a girl commenting under his post, and she went on her page and saw they took pictures together at the same place at the same time. The girl also posted him for his birthday weeks later, saying happy birthday to my fiancé. She messaged her letting her know he's a deadbeat and got blocked. Then her baby daddy called her, saying she's a crazy B-word that led to them getting a hotel room, and they slept with each other. All to prove some point to his fiancé that he's not loyal and she can have him whenever she wants because she sent her proof after they slept together, but the fiancé stayed with him. As she's telling me the story, I just sit there upset. I started asking her if she went to a doctor and how far along she is. She said she did stop by peeping and got scanned. She's 9 weeks. We live in a blue state, so abortion is legal here. I told my sister that I wasn't going to be re-signing the lease unless she got an abortion. She looked at me with so much disgust and started crying harder. She called me an evil B-word and said that I'm a horrible person for making her choose between her baby or having housing. I told her with her hours now, she can't afford even half the rent, let alone the daycare she's split between me, our dad, and aunt, so to understand the position she's putting me in, since the responsibility is falling on me. She told her family and they're pissed, saying I'm being heartless to even ask her that and that I shouldn't punish her, and if I should sign at least 6 months so she can get her ish together since 5 weeks isn't a lot of time. I said no, she's ungrateful for all the help I've done, so I'm out. They're saying I'm an a-hole since when I didn't qualify, she let me live with her even though I paid half. Honestly, OP isn't wrong. Why would you want to get pregnant by your baby daddy who's literally a deadbeat, again to prove a point to his fiancé that he's unloyal? Like, in what world does that even make any sense? Am I wrong for telling my sister that she absolutely cannot bring her service dog to our wedding due to my wife's allergy? I, 32 male, am getting married to my long-term girlfriend Gamma, 30 female, at the end of November. Now, me and Gamma are having a small wedding with only close family and friends invited, mainly because we don't want it to be an inconvenience to others, and choosing a venue is really hard due to Gamma's allergy. Gamma is allergic to dogs and is terrified of them due to a freak accident when she was younger. That's also when she found out that she's allergic to them. While her allergy is not deadly, even when taking anti-allergies, her face would get significantly swollen, have red marks all over it that are visible even with heavy makeup, and she would constantly sneeze. Lockdown was a blessing in a way that she could wear face masks that was helping with allergies. She's still trying to wear face masks to help her, but can't always do it inside as people immediately think she is ill and don't really want to have us in their restaurant cafes. And to the issue, my sister Kay has diabetes and has a service dog, Lenny, to help her. I absolutely adore him and Gemma is not scared of him either. However, due to Gemma's allergy, I have reminded Kate not to take Lenny to our wedding. I was dropping some parcels off for her this week as she was away and they were sent to my house, as I believe my future wife should be able to enjoy her day without swelling, which would be hard to avoid due to venue being quite small and private. Gemma gets the reaction even if there's a dog in the same supermarket, even if it doesn't touch her. My sister has reminded me he is a service animal and I can't ask her to do that, not to take him. But I have told her he's still a dog and being a service animal doesn't miraculously cancel my wife's allergies, and she knew about them from the start. I'm not asking not to take him to any family get-togethers. I'm just asking not to take him to our wedding. My sister and my mom both call me an a-hole and are not talking to me and have threatened not to come to the wedding, which I said is fine as I value my wife's comfort. But am I the a-hole? I mean, if the wife is allergic to the dog and the wedding day she's going to be having allergies, why would you bring the dog? Like, it's just self-explanatory. Like, she could find something way else. Like this person is allergic to this animal and it's their wedding day. Sometimes just get to compromise. Am I wrong for laughing at my sister-in-law and telling her I have zero desires to raise her child? I, 44 female, am married to my hubby, Jimmy, 48 male, for over 2 decades. My parents died suddenly in a car accident 10 years ago. I have a younger sister, Abigail, 39 female, with Down syndrome, and Jimmy and I are guardians. Abigail is my sweet angel on earth. When my parents passed, I was working mother of 3 young kids, helping to build our family business with my husband. At first, Abigail lived with us full time. Jimmy has always been on my side with her care and loves her to bits. After a few months, realized that my sister needs more attention than we could give her. There was just not enough time in the day. We discussed what would be best for her and decided to put her into a private adult home for special needs people. It's very costly, over 10K a month, and comes from our own finances. The facility does all sorts of activities and field trips. She loves her home, her friends, and the special days the facility hosts. We're always stopping by to either visit, sign her out on holidays to spend with family, keep her overnight for special sleepovers with my kids, and take her on every vacation with us. We never go more than 24 hours without one of us making sure she's okay. On to the issue. I have a sister-in-law, Jenny, 42 female, who had her first child after years of trying. She's become the typical first-time mom who believes she invented motherhood and is openly opinionated about things she believes other parents fall short on. I mostly ignore her, and so does Jimmy. We hosted a BBQ at my house for Labor Day with my father-in-law, mother-in-law, Jenny, her husband, baby, and my kids. Abigail had planned to trip to the zoo and asked if she could go. Of course, we said okay. While we were eating, Jenny turned to me and asked me where Abigail was. Her tone was more accusatory than questioning. I simply didn't want to get into it with Jenny, so I said Abigail wanted to stay at home. Jenny turned to her husband and said, See, this is why it won't ever happen. My mother-in-law asked Jenny what she was talking about. Jenny, all snarky, said to the whole table, We did our wills last week, and we knew these two couldn't be suitable as guardians of our baby if something happened to us. They tossed her sister in a home rather than be a real family to her. I won't let that happen to my child. I didn't let it show, but I was extremely hurt she could say this. Instead of yelling, I laughed at her and said, Well, that's great news, since I have zero desires to raise your kid. More was said, but that's the gist of it. Jenny left with her family, calling me nasty swear words as she walked out. I might have said some few words myself right back at her. It's been over a month and now Jimmy's still getting nasty texts from Jenny demanding I apologize. My mother-in-law knows she overstepped with her comment but is asking me to be the bigger person and say sorry to keep the peace. I refuse. Am I the a-hole? Absolutely, positively not. Am I the a-hole for even letting my mom be homeless or offering her a plane ticket to our home country? I, 29, female, am originally from a North African country, but currently live in the UK. When I was 5, my dad divorced my mom and vanished. 2 years later, she met a guy online, married him, and moved to France. She lied to him and said she was never married and had no kids, so I was forced to pretend that she was not my mother when they visited other year. I was left with my grandma. She did her best to raise me, but she was pretty old by then, so I ended up being the caretaker when I got a bit older. Nevertheless, I knew my best bet was to study hard, so I did so. I went to top engineering school and started working for a multinational. Then I was promoted and moved to the French branch. By then, my grandma has passed away. My mom already had pretty much no contact with me, and her kids thought me as the orphan that their grandma used to raise, so I didn't even tell her that I moved to France. 2 years ago, I moved to a new company in the UK and I make pretty good living. With no one to support, I am pretty financially secure. Then my mom reached out to me. Apparently, her husband divorced her. Her kids can't help her. I don't know why. She mentioned some financial reasons. So she got my number from a cousin I'm in contact with and wants me to move her in with me. I told her that will not be happening. The only help I will be offering was a plane ticket back to our home country, and she can then do whatever she wants. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't owe her anything. Most of my family are on her side, mainly because of religious and cultural reasons, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't letting resentment cloud my judgment. Actually, OP is better than me because I wouldn't even offer her a ride anywhere. I wouldn't get her a train ride, a plane ticket, or anything, because how in the world do you have the audacity to basically orphan your child and then now you need them? You know? Growing old and always needing the child that you abandoned when you were younger is always a classical act. Am I wrong for sharing a bed with my brother's girlfriend? I'm 18, my brother's girlfriend is 18, and my brother is 19 if it matters. We were staying in a hotel for a few nights because we were on a trip. My brother stayed at his friend's house for a bit, and me and his girlfriend went back to the hotel. We were both trying to have a nap, but she got in bed with me because it was really cold and she was cuddling me to keep warm. We didn't have any extra blankets or anything. I woke up to my brother screaming at us both and saying how disgusting we are. We did explain to him that nothing happened, but he was still really upset and angry. They're on the verge of breaking up, and I feel really shitty about it. I just wish my brother would understand that I don't like her that way at all, and she doesn't like me like that either. She was just cold. I'm worried that I've messed up my relationship with my brother and my friendship with his girlfriend. I feel like it's kinda dumb though, because if I was a girl, he wouldn't care. Like, just because I'm straight doesn't mean I want to F every girl I interact with. My parents are pissed too and said they're really ashamed of me. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I don't know if it changes anything, but I have known her before she knew my brother, and our relationship has always been touchy in a platonic way though. Thanks for the comments. I haven't replied to them all, but thank you still. Extra edit because there's a lot of confusion. The hotel did have extra blankets, but they were the gross, scratchy ones, and it did have a thermostat. I turned it up, but I don't know if it was working or not because it was still kind of cold and there was 2 beds. Honestly, the gaslighting on this one is insane. And what in God's green earth is platonic in a touchy in a platonic way? What? Am I wrong for adding my brother to his in-laws and kids? Parents live with me because I bought their house when they were going to lose it. They were going to lose it because all the money they spent on keeping my brother out of jail and keeping him in rehab. My brother is clean and sober now, married with kids, religious with a father-in-law that gave him a great job. He has never paid my parents back 1 cent. I live in the basement too with my girlfriend and my dog. I make good money and my parents deserve to have a good life. They did what they thought was best. My brother had us all over to his house for a BBQ. It was a good meal and his kids are alright for being his offspring. He then proceeded to mock me for still living at home, smoking weed and playing video games while living in sin. Him to shut up and leave me out of whatever was going on. He said that he just knew I could be doing so much better if I applied myself and looked for guidance. I thanked him for the meal and my girlfriend and I went to leave. He yelled that he was just telling me what I needed to hear to motivate me. I got upset, so I said I was motivated. I said that I like to smoke weed and to drink, but that I paid it for myself with money I earned from my job. I never stole from my parents to pay for drugs. I said that I lived on the basement of a house I owned because I couldn't afford two houses, one for me and one for our parents. And since that they went into debt to pay for his lawyers and rehab, I was subsidizing his life. I said that my college fund went up his nose. He bitter, we left. I guess his wife, who knew everything, had never told her parents. My parents understood why I blew my top, but they think I should have kept it in until it was only family there. I honestly would have done the same thing, if not worse. There's nothing I hate more than a hypocrite, and you shouldn't be throwing stones when you're in a glass house yourself. Am I wrong for making my sister choose between family and a career? Pretty much the title. My younger sister is getting married. She's a content creator, influencer, blogger, whatever you want to call it. One time a few years ago, she made a video with my kids at Disney. I gave her permission to post it. I felt really uncomfortable and violated on behalf of my kids afterwards with how many random strangers viewed and commented on my kids, even saying things like that my son is their favorite, like he's a cartoon character, and said not ever again. My sister has been respectful to this for the most part. Occasionally, she has tried to hint that such and such dance or prank would be so funny with them. She doesn't spend a lot of time around our kids though because we live in a different state. Here's where the problem comes in. My sister is getting married. Companies are paying her to use certain items and she's also getting discounts from some vendors. Obviously, this involves quite a lot of the wedding and the lead up to it needing to be posted online. My sister had asked that my older daughter, 10 female, be a flower girl, junior bridesmaid. Before we asked our daughter if she wants to do it, we asked my sister to confirm that our daughter will be present in any of the wedding content she posts online. My sister believes this is an unreasonable request. I said it's simple, just ask the videographer and her fellow content creator friends in the party not to film daughter and take photos with and without her. But my sister feels like this will lead to things looking weird and inorganic, and that it's unreasonable request for her videographer and her friends. We said even if he accidentally gets her, they can blur her face, and it shouldn't be that hard to avoid pointing your phone at one specific person. She disagrees, so we said that unfortunately daughter will not be participating in the ceremony. My wife and I believe this should be easily doable, and it shows that my sister at least partially wants my daughter involved simply because she wants a cute kid to be in the wedding content. However, my sister is framing it as being terrible and forcing her to choose between her career and our family. The thing is that, as I said, she's not super close with our kids. She's great when she's here, and it's not like I expect a 29-year-old to be overly invested with kids or anything, but it does feel pretty unauthentic to now claim they're so close that it would be heartbreaking if daughter wasn't in it. I just don't view this as having to make a hard choice. Am I wrong? Honestly, OP is definitely not wrong. There's no reason for children to be, in a video where it's going to be podcasted to a bunch of creeps and weirdos and random strangers on the internet. If she wants the child to be in the video, she can do it without having to record the whole entire child and their face and putting a child's face and blasting all over, social media or the wide internet. Like, it's really not that deep. OP and his wife are 100% correct. Am I wrong for not helping my brother with his daughters when his wife left him? I, female 30, is single and child-free by choice. I date occasionally, but no long-term relationships. This is due to many reasons. I love my freedom. I want to enjoy my life unencumbered with responsibilities and want to really focus on my career. My older brother, male 34, got married when he was 26. He has two kids, female 7 and female 4. They had a traditional household. He wanted a partner who stayed home and looked after the family while he earned. She had apparently dreamed of being a homemaker and taking care of children. But during last couple of years, she showed signs of hating it. She wanted to study more and work outside, build something of her own. But my brother refused to step up or help. I warned him once, but he told me it's none of my business how he runs his household. I kept my mouth shut since. His wife left him a month ago. She just wrote him a letter saying she can't do this and wants to explore her life. She left kids with him and basically vanished. We have no idea where she is. thing is, my brother doesn't know how to do even the most basic things. He's the kind of guy who never changed a diaper or toasted bread. The moment my brother found out that his wife left, he called my mother, who rushed it to save the day. She thought it was short term and my sister-in-law would be back, but she hasn't. My father is unwell and needs her home soon. They live hours away. My brother suggested she takes kids home with her. My dad said no, he is retired and they are both getting old. He does not want to have kids in the house full time, taking up her time and energy. Since that was a no-go, my brother asked me to either move in with them to help out or take kids in with me. I refused. From what I see, he's a grown adult and these kids are his responsibility. I made a choice to live the way I do and I do not want to sacrifice my life for his choices. My family is pressuring me into this, saying stuff like how my brother does not know how to take care of his kids, the little girls need a woman in their life, how family helps family, etc. My brother is calling me cold-hearted for not even trying to help him. Am I wrong? How exactly do you want a family and children, but you don't know how to change a diaper or cook for your food or cook for your kids or even clean after your kids? Even if his wife was to be there, the wife can die, the wife can get ill. Like, I never really understood people who have kids and they, both men and women, and they don't know how to do the basics of taking care of a child, because anybody can go outside and work. I'm pretty sure he got married at 26 and had kids, started having kids at 26. I'm pretty sure for 26 something years he was working and providing for himself financially. That's like a normal day-to-day thing that every adult does. But how do you not know how to cook and clean after children that you willingly had? And then on top of that, to either burden it with the women of your family, oh, your mother takes it or your sister takes it, even though your sister doesn't even want children, let alone children that she has. Why would she want to have another person's kids and be burdened with someone else's choices? Like, if he was saying, oh, please help me from time to time, that would have been understandable, because family does help family. But take the kids in with you. So he wants her to go to a job, full provide for herself financially fully, and then on top of that take care of two kids that belong to him. Why can't he do the same thing? I mean, at the end of the day, they're his children, aren't they not? Am I wrong because I told my parents to choose between living in my garage or a nursing home? I don't drive and live in my forever house with my dogs. My kids are growing up and I'm a widow. I converted my garage into a legal guest house with everything a person needs for when the kids visit. Independent washroom, kitchen, everything. My parents have recently asked me if they can move in with me. I agreed and talked to my kids to let them know that if they come for a visit, the garage was taken and they would have to stay in the house. My parents showed up on the appointment day and kids showed up with their families to help get them moved in. And they actually had already arranged hotel for one family so we would not be crowded. My parents were confused as to why we were moving their stuff into the garage. I told them that that's where they were staying. They said that they would thought they could move into my house since I have 5 bedrooms. I complained that I actually have 2 bedrooms since one room is my office where I see clients, one is my private office, and one is my hobby room. The spare bedroom is mostly for my mutts. They said they wanted to live in the house and not out in the garage like Wanzi. I said it was a take or leave in situation. If they didn't want the garage, they could move into a nursing home or something. They are upset that they are living rent-free in a private guest house that is fully up to code. My husband's girl best friend is pregnant and she says it's his. This whole entire story pissed me off from beginning to end, but let's get into it. So I met my husband, 25 male, while I was 22 female, and we hit it off instantly. He was the man of my dreams and he took me on day nights and made sure I was loved and gave me big gifts every so often, telling me I was the only one for him. I believe this since we have been together for 4 years now, and I've never had any issues until he introduced his best friend, who we will call Laura for privacy reasons. I remember we had an argument because he didn't tell me about her for our whole relationship, and he had been sneaking to see her and hang out with her at parties when I was sleeping, believing that he was working overtime. I was hurt by this, and my first thought immediately went into infidelity, but I found all of their texts to be platonic after he willingly told me to look. I thought she was nice at first when I first met her, and she spoke to me politely and said how lucky I was for about a week, until there was a get-together and my husband invited me along because it was her mother's anniversary and her family loved my husband because they had known each other since they were kids. I was okay with this and quite excited since I wanted to make more female friends and have girls' night out to relieve my work stress since my job is difficult and I make 6 figures. I should also mention my husband works in an office job that doesn't pay a lot, so I handle all of the house bills and chores while he's trying to get another job. I walked into the house with my husband and she ran to him happy, immediately wrapped her whole body around his arm and dragged him out to the garden. He didn't even come to get me or anything after being dragged away, so I went to the kitchen to ask for a drink, where I was greeted by Laura's mother. She's a lovely person who generally had a nice talk about our own lives, and she made sure I felt welcome. The whole time they were laughing, it seemed that everything he said was funny to her, and she kept rubbing his back, touching his arms, and saying how strong he had gotten, and she would look at me smugly. The breaking point of all of this was when I put a bit of meat onto my plate and she said, "Are you really going to eat all of that?" And I froze in embarrassment while my husband and her laughed. Her mother stood up for me, saying that was inappropriate to treat guests with respect, but she ignored it. Laura is very pretty and slim and works out, so coming from her, it hurts a lot. I stood up from my chair and walked out the front door and called my dad. I told him to pick me up and then I'll explain why in the car. When I got in the car, I broke down and told him everything. He said I was most likely overreacting, but the situation was very odd and that I'm welcome to stay with him for the time being. I thanked him and went back to our house. While I was getting comfortable, my phone flooded with messages from my husband and Laura. I read the messages to my horror. My husband was saying I ruined the whole dinner and that he was going to stay there for the night. I then read what Laura said, saying I had ruined her night because of my pick-me behavior. After doing research on that word, it's only filled me up with more anger. My husband came home around 5 p.m. from Laura's, and I immediately said leaving me and staying at another woman's house was disgusting, and he started shouting that I'm overreacting again and that I need to get counseling for my jealousy issues. For about a month, everything was going okay again. Apart from that, my husband got more distant and cold, and I could feel that our argument wedged a gap in our marriage. Until I got a message from Laura this morning with a positive pregnancy result and a threat saying we should get divorced because it's my husband's. I don't know what to do, and I'm just venting because I feel awful and I feel like I failed as a wife. I don't know if I should confront my husband, and I'm thinking about it. Edit. I'm getting a lot of hate and death threats, so I'll create some allegations. I'm 26, not 22. I met my husband when I was 22. I've not comforted him because he's not home yet. I'm contemplating calling and asking there, but he's not replied to my good morning text since he woke up before me and went to work. My dad owns a company that works with the care homes. Not going to say a lot about it for my safety, and that's how I make my money. No, I wasn't earning 6 figures at 22, but I am now 26. No, my dad wasn't against me. He was just confused because I was crying to him and wasn't making a lot of sense, so he thought she was just being a bit touchy. No, Laura wasn't at our wedding, and I have doubts they are our childhood friends. I plan on messaging her mother to ask if they have known each other for as long as they say, and I'll be comforting my husband tomorrow when he gets home. I can't find it, but later in the update she said that it turned out that her husband has been lying to his female best friend, telling her that the wife has been abusing him financially and emotionally and physically, so she can sleep with him and he can divorce his wife so she can get her money, the wife's money. Basically, he was telling the best friend all sort of lies to make her believe that the husband was in an abusive situation. That's why she was acting like this towards OP. It was like a whole chaotic story, but if I do find the update, I will be including it in another video, inshallah. On to the next story. Am I wrong for telling my daughter she can say goodbye to the rest of her college fund? My daughter is 17 and applying for colleges. We have a college fund saved up for her that we've been adding to since she was an infant. It's a good sizable chunk of money, and a lot of donations from family have gone into it, as well as her own savings occasionally. We have always made it clear that the money in there is for college only. She never had to put her savings in there. She has a separate savings account, but did anyway. But anyway, her girlfriend lives in Australia, and they are both insanely big Supernatural fans. They have both wanted to go to a convention for years, at least 5 years that I can remember. 2 of the main guys are going to be at a convention in Australia. She begged me to let her go. I said no, but the con is set for after her 18th. I can't stop her if she pays for it. I assumed she would use her savings. I checked the college account to add some in and noticed a chunk of money missing. I went to speak to my daughter about it, and she admitted to using the money to pay for the convention. She bought herself plane tickets, her girlfriend plane tickets, other end of the country, both of their con tickets, as well as booking a hotel. The con is 3 or 4 days, but she's planning on staying for a couple of weeks and making a vacation out of it. All in all, she's taken about 10K. I lost it, honestly, demanding she cancel, which fell on deaf ears. I tried to cancel for her, but she won't be refunding everything, so I'm hesitant to do so. She insisted that it's her money and she can do what she likes with it, claims she still has enough for college, and this is once in a lifetime experience. I believe this has shown her extreme immaturity and inability to manage her future money. I am so incredibly angry that she would go and do this. I told her she could say goodbye to the rest of her college fund and have blocked the account. I am now only person with access. She says she'll pay it back, but seems unlikely. My wife thinks I'm being harsh and that she's right. She put at least 5K into the account herself, so she really only took 5K, which my mother-in-law has since said she'll pay back. I think this just teaches her she can pay her way out of messes. I was certain in my decision, but everyone is acting like I'm the a-hole. She's a teenage girl and her entire life should have revolved around college. Am I still uncertain? I'm still uncertain, so here I am. Am I the a-hole? I mean, it's only 5K to be honest. Plus, this is a once a lifetime decision. You only do things like this when you're young and stuff. So as long as she has no more access to it, she's paying back the 5K that she took, or the 10K that she took into her account again. I wouldn't really have a problem with this. Am I wrong for abandoning my daughter on vacation?